Hey there, Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing their sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started. Hey there, real quick before we dive in. If you're a working mom who's constantly asking, how am I supposed to get it all done? Or you think most days something has to give, then stop what you're doing right now and add this to your calendar. So on October 20th, I'm hosting a live training called From Surviving to Thriving as a Working Mom. And inside, I'm breaking down the 3 exact shifts that I made that helped me finally stop feeling like I'm behind all the time. Actually in a place where I can enjoy putting my kids down to bed at night, even after long work days, and most especially still have time and energy left in the tank for me, for self-care without guilt. So this isn't fluff. It is the real life system that helped me go from burned out consultant and mom of 2 to running my house like an absolute boss in my career with more ease, clarity, and time freedom. It's happening on October 20th from 12 to 1:30 Eastern. So get that in your calendar. It's totally free. It's virtual and it will absolutely change the way you manage your time forever. I promise you. So even if you can't attend, if you were listening to this and you're saying, gosh, that sounds really great, and it's either on a day that you cannot attend, or if you're listening to it later and it's already passed, I still would love for you to register so that way you can get notified as soon as the next one happens. So pause the episode right now and go register at workingmomsmovement.com/live-training, or you can get the link in the show notes, but make sure you do it now before the day runs away from you. Okay, now let's tune in. Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. So inside this one, we're going to talk about career progression after kids, and we're going to do it from a couple different angles. Of course, I'm going to talk about what you may need to consider, but I also want to zoom out and talk about some of the trends that I've seen and some of what actually inspired me to start Working Moms Movement because of what it was that I experienced myself. So I am going to back up before I dive in. I actually just hit platinum status for like the 4th or 5th year in a row with American. But the difference is that it really starts again in April. So April, I don't know, that's 6 months. So I think that's why I had June in my head because I was thinking 666. Okay. So it's only been 6 months and I've already hit platinum. Normally it takes me all the way up until end of March to actually hit it. And I started reflecting on like, gosh, yeah, I had this big trip abroad, but normally that's not enough to do it. What's the difference this year? Then I remembered all of the facilitating that I was leading in the beginning of Q1. I was constantly on the road leading that training. And when I started thinking about that, not just that training, but some other circumstances too, I don't want to mislead and give the impression that I'm specifically talking about that circumstance. But it did make me think of a circumstance, regardless of who it was for and where it was, where I was sitting in a major ballroom because it was another circumstance where I was facilitating and I was looking right and left, and there were a solid couple handfuls of executives in that room because it was such a priority for the organization I was working for. And y'all, I was the only exec in the room that was married with kids in a dual income family. And that hit me a lot because all of that stuff takes a while. Marriage is hard, raising kids is hard, becoming an executive's hard. Like, gosh, just even managing a regular career is hard. All those things are hard. And I was a little alarmed that there was nobody in the room that looked like me, particularly women. There were many men that were there, but they either had a very flexible spouse or most of them, their spouses stayed at home. And there were a couple of them that had already moved on and that did have kids that were no longer married. And I really do try to be inclusive on this podcast. So please don't misread what I just shared as saying this is the way that things need to look. All I'm trying to say is it got me realizing, it gave me this insight like, gosh, wow, there are no people here that look like me at this stage in my career. And it was in that insight that I realized and started reflecting on these broader systemic issues that women, particularly caregiving women, carry regarding their responsibilities. And most of them tend to be squeezed out of leadership before they're ever given a chance to reach it. And that struck me really hard. The system inherently punishes caregivers, but that's has nothing to do with their capability. It is instead a reflection of the existing biases and broken expectations that exist across the system at large. Not any one particular organization, but just this pent up norm of doing things that we have built up over decades and decades and decades, societally speaking. So when I started talking about that experience and how I was looking right and left and being like, wow, I feel like I live a pretty regular life and there's still nobody here that looks like me. I posted about it and I got a lot of opinions. And that's not a surprise. There were a lot of people that said I left my organization because I looked right and left and there were no role models above me. There was nobody that made it look like I could have a healthy marriage, raise kids, and be an executive or a leader and of people in this organization. I had another person that said that she declined a loan for an organization because when she looked at their female population, it was pretty balanced or 50-50. But out of the 20-person board member community, they were exclusively male. She said, not only am I not supporting that, but that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So she did not give them a loan. She was a loan officer. And those were just many of the stories of people saying, me too, me too, me too. So clearly it is a bigger problem than just the organization I was working for and what I was seeing and experiencing. These stories show us how there is just a general lack of representation of women. But the thing is, especially that last one with the loan officer, it doesn't just hurt us though. It hurts businesses, it hurts organizations, and it certainly hurts our families and what we are able to demonstrate for the incoming generation. And the thing with organizations though is many of them do little to support making careers sustainable. Yes, they're like throwing all kinds of money at DE&I communities and speakers and that sort of thing. And I'm grateful for that. I certainly take advantage of that. So if you are here and listening and your company hires speakers or you have workshops and that sort of thing you can support as part of your DEI community, absolutely, please bring me in. I'm so grateful that it happens. And I'm grateful that I've worked for organizations that invest in that because sharing space and community with other people that feel like us does matter. It really does matter. But the problem with that as a solution is it doesn't actually provide us with the underlying tools we need to excel, particularly as moms, because moms are balancing a lot. Instead, what organizations are doing is they are throwing money at the top half of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, it is essentially saying that in order to reach the top of the pyramid, which is a form of self-actualization where you actually get to be at your best, you have to have the bottom layers of the pyramid cared for. You have to have proper nourishment. So food, sleep, the things that will keep you alive and healthy. And then you have to feel safe and secure. And then you get to layer on meaningful relationships and marriages and feelings of love. And the pyramid continues to get up and tighter and tighter and tighter to where we can reach a place of self-actualization, where we get to be at our best. But the problem with that is it's often lack of sleep and our home routines and our support system and that sort of thing that actually build a sustainable career, that make it possible for us to continue growing. But what's happening inside organizations is they're throwing money at technical training and leadership training and things that are certainly nice to have, but don't support this underlying need we have to figure out how to make it sustainable and how to survive. So those are the type of conversations and the observations that I had that inspired me to start Working Moms Movement. And of course, if you've heard my story, part of this is also I've been there. I burned out. I had clinical burnout. It was undiagnosed, but there's no doubt in my mind it would have been. And I gave so much of myself away for free and knew that there was something I could offer. But ultimately, I could have continued doing that on the side and save myself a lot of time and energy over standing up a formal business. But instead, I decided to start Working Moms Movement because I believe in the movement, because I believe in creating a space where growing a career can be more sustainable and you don't have to choose between burning out or growing, or you don't have to choose between being able to be present for yourself and your family and being able to have a career. Like both of those things can be true. So I care a lot about having a career sustainable for women. And the way that I believe that I can do it is not just talking about it here and creating free content to help women, but it's also continuing to elevate the conversation to make it relevant and then doing what I can within my control to help the individual woman. So I have a lot of partners out there that are doing really big things. My friend Kalina at Both and my friend Sarah at Sarah Wells Bags. Like there are people really taking the big platform and amplifying it, and I'm grateful for them. But I have decided to focus my energy on helping the individual person. I believe that that is my highest and best use and my biggest calling. So here we are. And I am here to help one of you at a time. One, because I care about each of you that are tuning in, but also because y'all, we're setting the example for our next generation. So I think it's equally relevant, regardless if you're raising boys or girls. As a female, I want modeled for me that you can have balance, that you can show up and still do it all without burning out, without losing yourself. As a parent to two boys, I also care about modeling that women are badasses too, that we can do all the things as well. And I want modeled in my home that men deserve to share in the domestic labor. And my husband does that. He is an absolute gem. You know, we're wired very differently, and anybody that knows us both knows that to be true. Sometimes it takes a little bit more encouragement to get him there, but he is absolutely a present father, and I owe a lot to him. So he is modeling for our boys exactly what I am trying to create for other people. But when women leave the workforce, we can't model that for the next generation. It continues to set the impression that we're not able to do it. But of course, we won't be able to do it without burning out if we don't figure out how to make it sustainable. So, um, it I'm not here to say that remaining in the workforce is the right decision for you. It really might not be. And I'm also not here to make you think that if you do stay in the workforce, you have to continue growing your career. However, I would like to say that I do believe that you get to choose what you want, and there's a way to make it possible. There is a way that we can prove to society that women can work without losing themselves. And we earned that place in the stage. But I also believe that society is better when women work because we're setting that example, not just for our kids, but others as well. Because women, particularly moms, are effective. We know how to get shit done. Like, if I need anything done, if I need a project finished, you better believe I'm giving it to a mom. We know how to get it done. And we're empathetic too, and that matters. I don't know if you've worked for an unempathetic leader before. I have. I have had a couple fantastic women leaders, like just truly remarkable, and a couple really good males too. And there's no comparison between the two. Women are just very empathetic. And the only way that we can help and continue to improve that balance of the workload at home is to continue getting women into leadership roles. I'm a believer in that. So I recognize it's not black and white, and I recognize that it might not be for you. But now I want to pivot the conversation to talk about how you might be able to make it more sustainable. And that's actually some of what I'm trying to work with a couple of my clients on. So I have one client who's debating whether or not she gets promoted at all. And then I have another client who's debating on whether or not she stays in the workforce or she becomes a stay-at-home mom. And neither of those options are bad. regardless if you exercise it or not, if you decide to get promoted or you don't, or if you decide to stay at home or continue staying in the workforce. There's no shame in either of those options because it is our life and we get to live it. And oftentimes we have a tendency to live our life for other people, whether that be because we believe it's what our parents want of us or expect of us, or what we see modeled, or what our bosses or our peers expect of us, and we're living for other people. That's unfair. This is our life. We have one of them to live, and we get to live it. So while there's no right answer, one of the things that is really important to me when I work with my clients is to help facilitate you getting clear on what type of life experience you want for yourself and what type of life experience you want for your kids. Because when you have intentionality there, then you can way more easily guide your decisions on what is best for you or not best for you. Because void of that clarity, you're probably going to just tend to drift into your career and just let momentum and inertia take you instead of actually driving it. I don't want a drifter, I want a driver. I think I'm going to have to patent that. So if you're unsure of what you want, um, I recommend you take a page out of my book. So when I was leaving my firm that I was with for 16 years, I really didn't know what I wanted to do next. I knew that I didn't want to go back into a partnership, at least immediately. And I didn't think I wanted to stay in professional services because it's a hard industry. I mean, a lot of them are, but both of them are particularly hard. And I just wanted to be able to focus on a particular industry instead of peanut butter spreading myself. So I knew that I needed to rethink the direction that I was heading. And the best way that I could figure out how to do that is not necessarily invest in a coach. Not to say that coaches are bad. Clearly, I am one, and I've invested in many coaches in my life. But I didn't think that would serve me as it related to figuring out what it is I needed. I knew how to facilitate the process myself and the discipline to do it. I just needed information. And the way that I decided to acquire that information is have as many conversations with as many people as possible about their experience. Okay, hey, Sarah, hey, Abby, hey, Ashley, hey, Doug, insert any other name. Like, I think you've done some pretty awesome things with your life, and I respect the heck out of that. I would love to learn more about why you did what you did, how you got here, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you might want to do differently, what you might suggest to other people to consider. Okay, thank you. That was helpful. Now, do you have two other people to introduce me to that you think would have an interesting career path that you believe I could benefit from talking to? I had probably close to 100 of those conversations when I was rethinking what I wanted to do next. I ultimately decided to extend my time in corporate and took a role leading culture. I love culture work. I love behavior change work. But I also decided to start this business because at the end of the day, where I believe my highest and best use was to help educate and inform women on how they can make it sustainable and learn from some of what I both the mistakes and the strengths that I brought to the table. So it is because of those conversations I'm here. So if you aren't clear on what you believe you need to do for your career, I'd encourage you to have those same conversations just over and over and over. And then as you have them, I want you thinking about a handful of variables like flexibility and prestige and brand and the role and like the just the intellectual stimulation of the role, salary, like there are all kinds of things that factor into a career that make and inform career related decisions and choices. And when you're clear on what to listen for and think, it allows you to think to apply. And when you can think to apply, that's when you can start curating the story for yourself. So if you haven't done this, I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 19. I'll link it in the show notes, but it's about how to make more informed career decisions after kids because there are different things that you might consider than you would 10, 15 years ago before you had kids. In fact, one of my clients found the sheet that she filled out early days of her career on what it is that she valued relative to health and career growth and family balance and I don't know, a handful of things. And you had to rate them from 1 to 10. And she's like, wow, what mini me 15 years ago rated has no semblance or no resemblance of what I would rate these now. So you change a lot. And I think that going into it eyes wide open on what your career needs to look like in order to match the way you've changed is important. And you can go back to episode 19 to learn more about what that might look like for you. And it'll certainly give you some variables to think about, like very actionable variables. Okay. So then once you figure out what you want to do, tell everyone, like literally tell everyone. If you know me in real life, you know that I talk about my business a lot. I love this stuff. It lights me up. I want this thing to be successful. I wanted a culture role. I wanted a big culture role before I went into this business. I told everybody I knew, and I got one. That's really cool. So people can't advocate for you and they can't help you reach your goals if they don't know about them. And most people really sincerely want to help you. If they have connections, they're going to want to offer that. So tell people. And then zooming out, I'm going to talk like, okay, let's pretend you've got that clarity. My gut, without knowing what your individual circumstances are, so what I'm about to share is a blanket statement. My gut is you don't necessarily need to slow down your career growth if you have kids. And again, that's a blanket statement. I don't know your circumstances, but I'm willing to bet that as an alternative, you can do things differently. If you put the right systems in place, which is what I help my clients with, we build a life management system. There is a reason that this podcast is called a life management system. We build their personalized life management system. So that way, with the right systems in place, you can build back time into your life, particularly your personal life too, that will give you the capacity to help you continue growing your career. Like we help with those tools, with those systems, and with those routines. Because if you do things differently and you have that breathing room in your schedule, both personally and professionally, all of a sudden you can see a path where growing your career is possible. And chances are, my friends, you're probably already doing the promotion ready work anyway. If you're tuning into this podcast, you're inherently a high performer that cares about being at your best. So if you're already tuning in, chances are you're already knocking it out of the park. You're already promotion ready. But the difference is you're not getting paid for it. You deserve that recognition, friend. You deserve the recognition. And then if you decide that you don't want to get promoted, or if you do and you're like, I'll get promoted and then maybe or maybe I just need to work part-time, it's another trap. I do believe that you can get promoted and still make it work. I remember a time when I looked at Richard and I, with a straight face, told him I'd just gotten promoted to manager. And that same evening, in that same conversation we were celebrating, I was like, I have no desire to get promoted past manager. And he's like, why not? You work so hard to get here. I'm like, yeah, because I want to be able to be present with my family. I want to be able to not lose myself to my career. And I know my default is to just keep pouring and pouring and pouring into it. And naturally, that's not what happened. I continued to get promoted. I continued to work even harder. But I also realized my thinking then was flawed. I was thinking about managing my life, both my career and my home life, like I was at the time. And I do things completely differently now. It's the same stuff I'm helping my clients with. So don't feel like you can get promoted. You're probably already there. And if you think that going part-time is the right answer for you, I would just be extra cautious about it. Again, there's no right, wrong, or indifferent. But one of my mentors, again, I came from consulting. She was working on a flex arrangement for at least a decade or two. She had 5 kids. That's a lot to manage. And she ran a national practice. So that's a lot. But what she was doing was not taking her time down to 20 hours. That wasn't actual part-time. Instead, she was taking more to like 30 to 40. But 30 to 40 is certainly better than and more sustainable than working 60 to 70 consistently, which is what she would have had to have done if she stayed full time. So it's not that it's not possible. It's just often that you have to recognize that you are working a lot still. And the hours you work are really, really hard hours. You're probably not tuning into the regular staff meetings because the hours you're spending are like heads down, banging it out kind of hours. But you're only getting paid for half of that. Like you're either blowing through your hours and not actually working part-time, or the hours you are working are just like extra, extra, extra intense. So, not saying it's not right for you. I'm just saying think about it. Like before you make the decision, just go into it eyes wide open. And my aunt was the one that warned me about that. She's like, Courtney, 20 hours, like part-time is never part-time. I am just burning it. Like I am working real intense to be able to even quasi fit in and like create this part-time schedule for myself. And I can appreciate that because I went to a different type of like it was not a formal FWA, particularly for any of you in HR that like really understand the technicality of an FWA. It was more like mock FWA, more about the hours of the week I worked. So I talked to my boss when I came back after having my first about trying to condense my hours working Monday through Thursday. And then that way I didn't need to pay for childcare on Fridays because we were paying for a nanny. And we did not get in daycare. It's just crazy in Charlotte. You have to be negative a year pregnant in order to get into daycare, and we just couldn't. So we were using a nanny. I'm like, man, if I could cut down one day, then this makes it so much more affordable for me. 'Cause at the time, I wasn't, I my salary just was not where it was now, and it really felt restricting. So we agreed that was possible. Okay, as in she was granting me the opportunity to try. But it never actually worked like that. It was very hard for me to ever take Fridays off. And it's gotten even harder because our world is just way more geographically dispersed now. And it's really easy to take online meetings and things that we just couldn't back in 2015. So the FWA was really hard for me then because everybody was meeting on Friday. That's just when you could get together. That's when you could get your team together because during the week you were meeting with clients and other types of like more burning issues. And then all of the strategic planning and reflection kind of stuff happened on Friday. So it was hard for me then, let alone now. I can't imagine that working. So I thankfully realized before it was too late that while that wasn't working and I was getting this like false sense of flexibility that actually wasn't at all. I also realized that it was changing some dynamic at home. And again, I've already said in this episode, my husband is very helpful around the house. We probably are not peers around the house, but he manages a lot as well. But what I saw happening then is what happens to so many moms. If you work from home, particularly, which at the time I was doing a lot of, it gave him the impression that I had all of this capacity to do more that I actually didn't have capacity to do. Just because I was working from home doesn't mean I was available all the time to do household stuff. Or just because I had Fridays off doesn't mean I could fit it all in. So, what happened in our relationship is I lost the ability to balance the workload between the two of us. I was not able to delegate to him. He did not take as much ownership as I did then. And it was just the start of something that I could see snowballing. So I knew that an FWA was not for me. And again, I'm not shaming anybody who believes it is for them. This is part of what I help my clients with is figuring out what you uniquely need because your needs and what you value are different than what I value. And when you figure out what you value, you know what to prioritize. And when you know to prioritize, you know how to spend your time, your money, and your energy. Those are your three critical resources. So your story is unique to you, but I am sharing my story just so it can give you a perspective of like, huh, okay, I never thought of it like that. Because ultimately, again, I don't want you drifting through your career. I want you driving your career. And I'm a believer, which is why I started Working Moms Movement, that you deserve a seat at the table. You deserve to be paid for what it is that you're contributing. You deserve to be recognized for the work that you're probably already doing. and you deserve to drive and make that possible for you. So if you're unclear about what it is that you want, again, just know that that's something that I help my clients define for them. And on top of that, I bring my background in industrial and systems engineering. So that really heavy efficiency and effectiveness type perspective. And I help you figure out how you can build systems into your life that will make your career sustainable, because willpower alone is just not going to get you there. Like that's what leads you to burnout. And that's where I was. That is why we are talking now, because I hit that point and I realized, gosh, something's got to change. It has to change. So I'm a believer, right, wrong, or indifferent. You don't have to agree with me, that the more and longer you stay in your career, the more likely you are to have a higher salary to get rid of work that is not the right fit for you. I'm a believer that most moms' highest and best use is not to be doing a bunch of stuff at home. That is why I have a house manager, and she is a godsend. I am grateful for her immensely. That is why I have somebody cooking. I am grateful for her immensely. I get rid of the things I don't have to do. And because I've stayed in my career, I have a higher salary now. So the longer I stay in my career, the more I get to get rid of that I don't need to be the one doing. And that's what I wish for all of you, is that if you choose to continue growing in your career, you continue to do so because you know it's sustainable and you have the systems in place to make it happen. So that's a wrap for now. This was a longer one than I intended, but it felt important to share my perspective on why I believe it's important that women continue to work and how lonely it was looking around the room and not seeing anybody else. And I want you to believe it's possible more than anything. Like that's the biggest, most salient takeaway from this, is just you believing that it is possible to stay in your career and not lose yourself and not sacrifice quality time with your kids, and know that you are doing what your highest calling is by being a present parent and also being able to contribute to your profession. So if you have questions, you know where to reach me. And if you don't, I drop all that in the show notes. But in short, DM me at Working Moms Movement on Instagram. Follow me there if you're not already. But until next time, friends, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You've got this, mama. Hey, friend, thanks for tuning in. Add the Life Management System podcast to your favorites so you don't miss my practical, snack-sized tips to help you manage the mental load and create a life that works for you. If we're not yet connected on Instagram, come say hi at Working Moms Movement for daily inspiration. And if this is your third or 10th time listening, it's time you bless the small business. Share this episode with another working mom in the thick of it and take 30 seconds to rate and review. It helps more than you know. And if you're ready to go from surviving to thriving and make your day-to-day actually sustainable, email me at Courtney@workingmomsmovement.com. Mention this podcast for 25% off my coaching services. I also speak and host workshops for organizations that want to support working parents from the inside out. Reach out if you think yours is ready. This has been the Life Management System, your shortcut to less chaos and more calm. And here's your reminder to keep managing your life instead of letting it manage you.